When Chaucer's tale of Melibea concluded, the host expressed a wish that his wife could hear Prudence's story of patience and wise counsel, lamenting that his own wife was an ill-tempered shrew. Turning to the monk, the host encouraged him to be cheerful and asked whether his name was John, Thomas, or Alban, inquiring about his monastery. Admiring the monk's robust appearance, the host joked that the monk could be a good breeding fowl, if only he were allowed to breed, humorously suggesting that religion had claimed all the best breeding stock, leaving only weaklings to populate the world. The monk took the jest in stride and promised to tell a tale, or perhaps 2 or 3, about the life of Edward the Confessor. However, he first announced that he would recount some tragedies, of which he had 100 ready. He defined a tragedy as a story from an old book about someone who fell from a high position and great prosperity into misery, ending wretchedly. Tragedies, he noted, were typically written in hexameters. The Monk's Tale is a compilation of tragedies meant to caution against trusting blind prosperity and to remind men of fortune's fickle nature. Lucifer is the first tragedy, who fell from angelic heaven to hell. Next is Adam, the only man not born of original sin, who was expelled from paradise. Samson's story is recounted in detail. He fell from grace after revealing his secret to his wife, who betrayed him to his enemies and took another lover. Samson killed 1,000 men with an ass's jawbone and prayed for God to quench his thirst, resulting in a well springing from the jawbone's tooth. Samson could have conquered the world, but lost his strength when he disclosed to Delilah that it resided in his uncut hair. His enemies then cut out his eyes and imprisoned him. In captivity, Samson brought down the temple's pillars, killing himself and everyone inside. Next is the tragedy of Hercules, whose unmatched strength was ultimately his downfall when Deianira sent him a poisoned shirt made by Nessus. Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, twice defeated Israel. He built a large gold statue that he demanded his subjects worship, or face being cast into flames. When Daniel defied him, Nebuchadnezzar was reduced to acting like a beast, until God relieved him of his insanity. Balthazar, Nebuchadnezzar's son, also worshipped false idols. During a feast where sacred vessels were used, he saw an ominous handwriting on a wall. Daniel warned him of his fate, predicting his kingdom would be divided by the Medes and Persians, exemplifying fortune's betrayal. Zenobia, the queen of Palmyra, who excelled in war and rejected traditional female roles, is the next tragic figure. Forced to marry Odenathus, she permitted conjugal relations only to conceive. After his death, she was defeated by the Romans and paraded through Rome in chains. King Pedro of Spain was overthrown by his brother. While attempting to reclaim his throne, he was murdered by this same brother. Peter, king of Cyprus, brought ruin to his kingdom and was subsequently murdered. Other tragedies include Bernabo Visconti, who wrongly imprisoned his nephew, and Ugolino of Pisa, a count who was imprisoned with his children and starved. Ugolino's youngest son died, and in his misery, Ugolino chewed his own arms. His remaining children, thinking he was hungry, offered themselves as food. They all eventually perished from starvation. Nero indulged in his lusts, killed his mother to see her womb, and had Seneca murdered for promoting virtue in an emperor. Faced with assassination, Nero killed himself. Holofernes ordered his subjects to renounce their laws and worship Nebuchadnezzar. For this sin, Judith beheaded him while he slept. Antiochus Epiphanes was punished by God for his attacks on the Jews, becoming infested with maggots. Alexander the Great was poisoned by his own offspring, and Julius Caesar had Pompey murdered, but was assassinated by Brutus. The final story is of Croesus, king of Lydia, the proud and wealthy ruler who was hanged. These tales, retellings of well-known stories, all center on the theme of high-born individuals falling into misery or death. Eventually, the monk's tale is interrupted.